Okay, I think we are live. First stream of 2024. Hard to believe, but I took a few months break and now we're back into the fold. So, on that note, let's get a rapid game in. Let's see if we can find a 15-15 perhaps. Let's see what's already been sought. Okay, there was a 5-15 that I was gonna. So 15-2. All right, well, we've got somebody that accepted our 15-15. So let's start with the good old trusty Scandinavian. Okay, this is a line that I do need to work on. Okay. That feels like a mistake. Bishop e2 is more natural, just to break that pin. So now I think I can take and mess up the pawn structure. Yeah. Okay, so they decided to mess up the king side pawn structure. I mean, they could have taken my queen and then I could have taken. Would have still had the king side pawns as they were, but of course, then they would have two isolated d pawns. So it was really just a matter of preference. Okay, so let's throw a check in just because we don't want to lose time. Okay, so they've decided to play bishop to e2. I mean, I could go queen g5 with the idea of preventing castling. But unfortunately with queen g5, that opens things up to d4. Hey, how you doing, Jim? You're in Cuba. Are you on a little vacation? Or are you there to play the Capablanca Memorial? Okay, so I think I'm going to develop and also put another piece on that square. I could also castle queenside, bring in the rook to have some pressure on d4. Vacation, good for you. Check out the Club Capablanca. When my wife and I had gone to Cuba a few years back, we checked out the club and also Capablanca's grave, if you haven't done so already. A couple of ideas. Yeah, so c4 is was just not correct in that position. It's natural to want to attack the queen, but they had to address this pin. first. So now they've just got a really unpleasant position. I could castle, but I think I'll play e6 first, just to take away that square from the knight. And also, you know, gets my bishop out, perhaps. Okay, okay, Holgen. Yeah, I should mention that his grave and the club are in Havana. So if you're not in Havana, so Holgen, I don't recall where Holgen is. Is that like maybe like the eastern coast? So you might be too far from Havana. The internet. The internet must be good for you there. Okay, so now they're feeling the need to give up a pawn. So now it's just a question of how do I want to take said pawn? I mean, I like the fact that my queen is centralized, but if I take, maybe their idea is to play f4. And then the queen has to maintain the defense of the knight. So how do I defend the knight? Sardon, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. First stream of 2024 after a few months break. Yeah, that's surprisingly annoying, because if I bring the queen back here, I'm susceptible, excuse me, to being attacked. Um, Here, well, if they go to b5, I can always take it, and if they go knight e4, I mean, I suppose I could just play queen d7. It's just a matter of, do I want to keep the queens on or not? Maybe I just go into the end game. I feel like that might be letting them off the hook a little bit. Because after there's bishop here. Yeah. Okay, I think I'm going to leave the queens on. So let's take with the knight. Okay, and that was, of course, their idea. Okay, so now either here or here. Well, it seems to me this is going to be a little problematic. I don't like the idea of self-pinning. So I'm just going to bring the queen here. Okay, so now white is down a pawn and a much worse pawn structure. But they do have two bishops, so I suppose they could make the argument that they might have a little bit of compensation, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Okay, so right now I think I could just castle. Or consider c5. c5 would lock that knight in. So the only problem with c5 is that it would take away like queen b4 ideas. So if I were to play castles, am I really concerned about the exchange here? No, I don't think I should be. It's just a matter of deciding whether I want to play that or not. I like the idea of clamping that knight to d4. I'm just a little concerned about queen a4. With queen a4, then I gotta go queen c6 to block the check. Then they take, and then I suppose I could take with the b pawn, but it would double up my pawns. I don't know if I necessarily want to do that. Maybe it'd be okay though, because this guy would stay. So here, 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 take, take. And the thing of the b pawn takes away this square from the knight. And so I'm arguing that, hey, if they want to take my knight, then they're going to undouble my isolated pawns. Yeah, that's intriguing. I do find that a little intriguing. Okay, let's give it a try. This might be one of those cases where you don't mind the isolated pawns. It is the more risky try, but now, of course, I could decide to bail out after here, here. Could always take back with a knight. But that feels... I mean, it's certainly safer, and I would still have a nice advantage, but certainly would be the safest way to play. But I prefer to play actively. So now I don't want to play queen d7 because after takes, takes, let's say castles, then they're ready to win the pawn back because my king is blocking a potential rook d8. So I gotta go here, unless I want to move the king, of course. so I'm arguing that if they take, then my isolated pawns, while weak, it's going to be hard to get rid of the knight from a nice centralized square. So if they do exchange it, then I no longer have isolated pawns. And with the pawn here, it does take away that square from the knight. Yeah, you can talk about moves from previous positions. Yeah, go ahead, Jim. Now, they may decide to castle. That puts more pressure on the knight. But I think if they castle or exchange queens, and then I'll castle myself, put my rook helping out the knight. Oh, actually, no, there's a flaw. Okay, that's not going to work. Yeah, if they castle, well, then I can play knight takes. And unfortunately, they can't take back because, whoops, the queen is no longer protected by the knight. Yeah, so I would expect queen takes queen here. And they got to do something immediate because right now I am looking at that rook. And again, castling this way is no good for the same reason. This is an example of an overworked knight. It's protecting two pieces, so you got to be very careful when you have overworked pieces. Tactics could be around the corner when you have overworked pieces. It is 9:30 a.m. here in Atlantic Canada, Eastern Canada. So that's why you're seeing me drink my coffee. Gotta have coffee in the morning. Okay, so our opponent is having a think here. All right, Jim, thanks for popping by. You enjoy your breakfast and enjoy the nice weather down there. Enjoy the rest of your vacation. All right, so this is like an important decision. It's probably what our opponent is thinking, whether or not to exchange the queens or not. There's a lot of times in a chess game throughout the course of a game where you'll have 2 or 3 moments that you have to spend a good time effort into determining which path you want the game to go. And what we call those are critical positions. Okay, well that certainly was not a move I was considering. So I think that's a blunder because I think I can take with check. And if they come up here, I do not take the other rook. Actually, I might even be able to take that other rook. Well, be risky, because then our opponent has the choice of here or here, which would be a double check. Honestly, rather than spend the time analyzing that, I think we can simply just grab the rook. If the king comes up, we might even be able to, oh no, the queen would be, yeah, I gotta move my queen, so I just bring the queen back. So that there's none of the tomfoolery with the knight move. Although now that I said that, that's interesting. So here, if I do go back, well then I think they could play knight c7. Because of course my queen can't take, because that would be check. So that's a very tricky move my opponent has played. Very tricky move. Okay. So here, we come back. Knight here. King here. Go check. Yeah, maybe we take back with the pawn, and then they take here, but the problem is their knight's going to be trapped. Ah, but that wouldn't be good for them anyway, because then I could play knight c2. And then grab their rook. Yeah, so I think there's a flaw in that idea. Almost works for them. And they could try taking here first. Ah, I miscalculated. Of course, the king is on d2, so I won't have knight c2 at the end. Ah. That wasn't very smart of me. Okay, here, here. 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 Knight here. I guess that's the only thing is that I got to develop the rest of my pieces, but I should be okay once I get the knight and the bishop out. It should be just a matter of grabbing the knight in the corner. Yeah, it's gonna be tough for them to get that knight out of the corner, but it's not gonna be trivial for me to take that knight. Yeah, maybe in fact I'll take back if they go right away here or here and they take. Maybe this makes sense to take back with the knight. So I'm thinking about, okay, so they decided to take that first. Now, I don't need to take that back right away. So what I'm thinking is rook d8, because that would pin the bishop. So if I go rook d8, knight here check, I could just go up. I'm going to grab the bishop next move, and here, I mean, they could take here, but then that loses the queen. So I think I will go for that. You're not forced to recapture, folks. So it's a good idea not to go on autopilot. I think that's something that a lot of us do, is we go on autopilot with our recaptures. We don't consider that perhaps maybe we don't have to recapture. Now, bishop to f3 is an interesting idea. If I take, maybe it's not interesting. I really don't have a useful discovery. So after king e7, I don't think there's much of a follow-up. The other thing is I could play rook takes, because if they take back with the knight, then the queen hangs. Now, I would have loved to have castled last move, but then they have knight a7, where they would have had a fork on the king and queen. So we have to do it this way. Yeah, I think white is just going to be down a rook here at the end. Although, what about here? If I take, what if they move the king there? Maybe I just go queen d7. Okay, yeah, all right. Go king up. Yeah, I think their knight is going to be a little lonely there. It'd be hard to get that knight back into the game. Okay, I could throw the check in here first, but maybe I'll take here because I might want to take back with the pawn, and then I have a strengthened D pawn there. So maybe they can go here, after which I might just take and give up that C pawn, because I don't think they could take that after king d6. So then I would be attacking both knight and bishop. Okay. Now I know I was talking about undoubling those pawns, but I mean, there is a nice thing about taking with check is that I don't lose time. Rather, my opponent can't make a move that they want to make because they have to deal with the check. So I was thinking I can go here, bishop f3, knight here just to defend this pawn. And this knight could have a check, but then king here. Yeah, then I'm going after the knight. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So knight takes here is a current threat. So let's just move the king. Now the bishop covers that square. Now I'm betting the idea is b4 because I can't take, because then the rook is gone. So I admit I did not consider that. A little bit of sloppy work on my part. Yeah, I'm essentially playing without 3 pieces here, so I got to get those guys into the game. Okay, yeah, I don't think that's the most. I think b4 right away it would have been just as good. All right, so now we get our knight in the game, and I'm thinking about a check, not just for the sake of check, but then I could take here perhaps. So now that I have this guy out in the game, he can support the rook. You can't do it all with just one piece. Now I'd like to play bishop d6 at some point because then I'd have 2 guys hitting that, but I think after bishop d6 it kind of forces the knight to take here, and then the knight would be hitting the king and the rook, so I'd have to take. Now it's just a matter of, do I want to take that first? Probably not, because then it opens up the A file for my opponent's rook. So yeah, let's develop with tempo, as they say, because I'm developing with a purpose, and the purpose is I want to play this move next time. Okay. Yeah, don't think that was the best way. I think they should have taken that with the knight. Because now, well, I've got an option. I could take either here or I could take this way. So if I take, let's see, they go here, bishop here, rook check. That could be a little annoying. Yeah, rook d1's coming, eh? Okay, let's take this with check, because I could always play rook e4. Now I suspect they'll go back here because they want to play rook d1 with the check. So after king here, I could just take there, I suppose. Might be what I'll do. The other idea would be to play bishop to here. Let's keep an eye on this pawn. Check king here. And then rook b1's a little annoying, threatening rook to b8. So let's just go with my original idea. Bishop takes. Check. We'll go here. And probably knight to b4, attacking this guy. Then I can bring my rook over to defend. And then I've got all my pieces out. All my pieces would have purpose. So you compare this position with, say, 5 moves ago, where I had 3 guys here that weren't developed. Okay. Ah, nice move. They want to come in this way. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Suppose I do need to be a little careful here. Maybe I'll just go rook here. King here. Give up that a pawn. And the knight b4 attacks there. That guy's kind of annoying. So maybe rook c8 just to cover the pawn. Let's do that. Keep in mind the bishop is covering those 2 important squares. Hello, Strobex. I'm doing okay. How about yourself? goes the chess battles. Ah, life has thrown you some challenges, huh? Well, I hope you're able to work through them, like you say. Now, I mean, I could play a check, but then after king here, I've trapped my own bishop because my rook is in the way. So, actually, I was thinking here to attack the bishop, but maybe rook here is... No, I want to be able to... Yeah, I want that bishop to have the full diagonal. So let's just attack the bishop. And if he lets me, I'll play rook d7 and trade off his most active piece. Okay. Well, I mean, with the amount of time that's left here, can't really criticize our opponent. It's tough to play with less than a minute. Okay. Well, I think the most important part about chess is that you enjoy the learning. I know we all can get frustrated when we're not seeing the improvement in terms of, say, rating points or, even victories. But chess is a very hard game, which is why we both like and hate this game. It's a game we love to hate. Okay, so let's get our pawns rolling here. Okay, yeah, he's focusing on that. Makes sense. But now I think I can play check and then maybe here, hitting the bishop. So I'll gladly trade my dark squared bishop for their light squared. If they want to take that, I'll take this guy. I am up a rook after all. So if I trade some of his attackers, then my extra rook will be even more relevant. Okay, well, he says, no, I don't really want to trade my pieces. So now the problem is his pieces are all bundled up. Any of his pieces move, I believe he's going to lose some material. The knight has no safe squares. If the bishop moves, well, then I grab the knight. If the rook moves, I grab the bishop. So yeah, this is not a very nice position. In fact, I have a simple plan of just moving the pawn up the board here. Okay, let's play a check. Now don't go here because then it's checkmate. Yeah. Well, Okay. Actually, I've got an idea here. I think I can let that pawn go. Because now I'm threatening mate with check, followed by bishop to e3. Because the knight will cover these two squares. There we go. So the rook covers this, and the knight covers these two squares, and of course we got the final mate. Okay, don't think there's too much to add. You know, what I said in the opening still applies. I think bishop to e2 is the best move in this position. Yeah, c4 is just a positional blunder in my opinion. Now there was a position that I did want to look at, and it was, what was it? Yeah, here. So my opponent played this kind of, I mean, it was a cool move, but it just didn't work out for them. So I think they should have taken, and I was planning on taking back with the pawn. Was this the position I was considering? The second here. No, it was here. Okay, engine is saying almost -4, which means it thinks that I'm up pretty much a full rook. During the game, though, I just wanted to look at this line. Chess Riddle, thank you for the follow, and I believe you are my opponent. We could play again. Just let me grab another coffee here in a second. Just want to look at this position really quick. So I was looking at this. Now the problem is the knight here would be out of play, but what I was thinking was that maybe if I go here with the idea of simply here, okay, it doesn't work. Yeah, I was considering like this idea, but there's a couple of ways out. I could simply just develop my knight, or I can even just ignore that, and now the knight is trapped. So yeah, I think knight b5 was a cute idea. It was worth a shot. So my opponent, who's in the chat here, they ask, does the 2 rook trap work? I believe it does. Well, no, that being said, I'm not so sure because I wasn't sure what the follow-up would be. I mean, it looks unpleasant because white gets a double check. But let's say after king e7, don't really see a useful follow-up. I mean, yeah, you could take here, but, you know, that's not going to be good. You could go for knight c7 check. Um, I mean, yeah, you could grab the material, but then of course it's my turn and then I start to attack. What if you took here? I just don't think there's enough here. Yeah, I mean, my pieces are not developed here, but once I get them into the game, I think you're simply just down a rook at this point. And there's a matter of how do you get this guy into the game. Okay. All right, we're gonna play another one against Chess Riddle. In 1 second, let me just go back. Okay, but first I'm gonna grab coffee. So just 1 second, folks, and we'll come back for a second game. This is a test. Okay, here we go. I think we've got the sound now. I'm finally getting confirmation. So sorry about that, folks. Software issues. Okay. Now, unfortunately, wasn't able to analyze anything there. So, okay, so this is the King's Gambit. It's a fun gambit to play. It's probably not sound academically, but it's good for us amateurs. So knight c3, it's useful to not only protect this pawn, but to have another piece that is looking at the d5 square. Now this is a spicy line because after my opponent plays the natural queen g4, it looks like I'm not doing well. And this just looks like a boneheaded move by me. But this is actually a pretty cool sacrificial line. So here it's tempting to play g2, with the idea being that they'll take, well, I will take their queen and they will win a free rook, right? Well, that is true. They would win the rook, but it turns out that this is a nice line for white. So let's see how chessriddler plays this. All right. It's a fun line to play. Of course, you need to know your stuff. You don't want to play this without looking at this line beforehand. Now, this line here shows the importance of knight c3, because knight c3 is holding this pawn. A lot of times people play d4 after g5, but this allows me to play this move. Because if I didn't have my knight here, and if I had my pawn here, well, then queen takes e4 would have been possible. So now the black queen only has one safe square at the moment. And this line, I'm technically down a rook, but now I'm going to come through with a lot of nasty threats. So the first one being a threatening check followed by checkmate. So black needs to address that. Knight h6 is perfectly natural, but then I will play d4, threatening to pick that guy off. Ooh, now that one I have not seen before. That's interesting. Okay. Huh. What if I just play knight takes here? The idea being that I hit the rook, but more importantly, let's say they were to play rook g8. Well, then I could play knight d6, which is a double check. The knight checks the king, as does the queen. So then the only move is king to d8. Then I would have queen e8, and that would be checkmate. So after knight takes, maybe they're just going to get, whoa, sorry. After knight takes, maybe they're just planning to give the rook back. Well, I mean, I suppose, materially things would be equal. Just wonder if there's something better here. Okay, take, or take and then king there. And what's the follow-up? Queen to f6. Queen f6 isn't cutting it because after knight check, they just go back here. Go here, and then queen back. It's actually a rather interesting move, knight to e7. Okay. Well, in the interest of time, I'm not seeing anything better than knight takes. So let's go for that. Well, I mean, at the very least, I'll be up a pawn with some dynamic advantages too. Most importantly, the black king is not looking too safe here. I think queen g1 makes sense, just to add another defender to the knight. The only problem with queen g1 is it relinquishes the attack on e4, so maybe I have ideas of like knight d5 there. But I think the most natural move is just to play a d4, get the bishop out, and maybe go castling if I had 5 moves in a row. Okay. Wants to get the pieces out, that's natural. But now let's start checking the king. So after takes, I'm going to play check. And my queen is going to be protecting e4, so I could play knight takes there. If I so chose. Yeah, it's I don't know if this is a trap line, but I think when I analyze this, the best way, I mean, black can get, with best play, maybe a minus or a +1 position for white. So, I mean, in effect for grandmasters, this is a bad line for black, but it's so tempting because the moves are so natural and you're winning a rook, right? I mean, that's why the queen is here. But that's only a static thing, the material advantage. White has a lead in development, and because of that lead in development, the black king is not very secure. So that's white's compensation. Now, this is not why I play the King's Gambit. I mean, black is not forced to go down this route. There's different lines for black. I mean, one of the reasons why I've adopted the King's Gambit is because people don't really study it that much. It's not one of the main openings for white. I mean, I've been playing for over 30 years now, and I think I only looked at the King's Gambit a couple of years ago, or might have even been last year. So up until that point, I never seriously gave it much thought. But I think that's what's so fun about chess. I mean, you can be playing for 30 years and you've got your defenses and your openings that you've been playing for years and years and years, but you can always change it up, learn new openings. Kind of makes things fresh, keeps things interesting, I find. Yeah, so I mean, I'm up 2 pawns at this point. I've regained my rook, and the black king is in very dire straits. So barring a complete bonehead move by me, this should be a rather quick resolution, I would think. Okay. So now we just want to get our remaining pieces into the action. So we're not too concerned about winning this pawn. It's more important to get the bishop out, and then hopefully we can castle. Because then the more pieces against the centralized king, the better for our attack. And again, I'll stress the reason why I played knight c3 so early in that line is because it's a very useful move for two reasons. It not only is looking at the d5 square, but more importantly, it's holding on to the e4 pawn. If this knight hadn't been on c3, then black would have had queen takes e4 on several moves there. You know, when I was coaching a few years ago, I remember one of my students was telling me that they started out with the King's Gambit, and I don't know if it was a coach that told him or um, whether he did it on his own, but he said the reason why he was playing the King's Gambit was to learn the tactical battles and to get better with tactics. And I think I never looked at it that way. Like, that wasn't my path when I was starting chess, but if I were to start it all over again, I think I would have gone down that route because that is the nice thing about the King's Gambit. Um, you're thrown into tactical battles, you're thrown into material inequalities, and you also see some dynamic elements, right? Such as lead and development, initiative. It really has, I would say most of the concepts that you would see in chess. Whereas if you go like the more traditional route, like I did, the first opening I learned was the Italian game, or the gioco piano as we called it. It's a very symmetrical opening, particularly if black wants to be symmetrical. Um, yeah, you don't really see a lot of dynamic elements, at least, when you're playing at a 12 or 1300 level and you're just starting out. I know nowadays the grandmasters are into the gioco piano, and quite a few games have been rather dynamic and aggressive and attacking, but it's not how I played when I was younger. It's not natural to really mix it up in the gioco piano. It's tends to be, a very static opening, very small advantages. So yeah, you get to see some tactics, but nothing like, you know, you would see in the King's Gambit. So yeah, long story short, I think King's Gambit is a great first opening to learn. And the thing is, like, as you progress and let's say you get to 15, 17, 19, 2000, even 2200 level, you can still play the King's Gambit because at the end of the day, we're all amateurs. And I think any opening is playable at the amateur level. Well, I shouldn't say any, but a lot of them are. Okay, so I could play a check. King goes here. I'd love to play bishop to h3. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a problem. I would be in check. So here, I take check. Now there's a couple of ways they could do it. They could play bishop to d6. I'm not so worried about that. Let's go most likely king back. I mean, yeah, I suppose I could just grab another pawn with tempo. I'm not losing any time. Check. If they go bishop to f8, I have bishop to h6. So I think that makes sense. I mean, if I'm going pawn grabbing and I'm not losing time, why not? Because my opponent is not able to develop any more of their pieces because they have to deal with my checks. Okay, so now my original thinking was check and basically see what they were going to do next. If they block, I get the bishop out. And if they go king here, well, now they're blocking their light squared bishop. So I think I like that. Okay. So now I just want to get my bishop out. Matter of where do I want to put it? go here, maybe queen f3. A little annoying. Bishop here, maybe queen here. Oh, then I could put check, followed by takes. It'd be really cool if I could get away with a move like this, because I just want to bring that guy out. But yeah, I think we're getting a little fancy there because of queen takes h2. Yeah, I'm up 3 pawns here. I don't know if I have to look for the best move here. Yeah, I think we could just simply develop. Yeah, actually, if they go queen f3, I might be able to sacrifice this bishop. With bishop g2, queen takes f4, and bishop to h3, and I think that will be fatal. Okay, I was considering that, yeah. Now here, I think I could just go king up. Which looks a little silly because I'm preventing my bishop from getting out, but I'm threatening bishop h3 check, and at the very least, picking off the queen. And so king e2 is better than king d2 because the king is holding on to the f3 square. So if I were to go king d2, then I'd have to consider queen f3, but now I don't need to. It's rather dark in here. Get a little bit of light in here. Rather gloomy day here. It's going to rain. started to rain already. Yeah, so yeah, it's not fun here for black. I think it's going to be tough to stop the checkmates. I mean, bishop h3 is such a massive threat. The problem is the king can't run because then I've got queen d5 check, king b6, queen b5 checkmate, amongst other reasons. I'm sure there's other mates there. Okay. I mean, I could grab the queen, but I'm going to see if there's a excuse me, I'm going to see if there's a mate here. Hmm. It's funny, I'm not seeing one. Maybe I just take the bishop. All right, let's see if we can find a checkmate with the time that we have. All right, bishop here. Check. Let me go back here. That's kind of annoying. Okay, queen here, king here. What's the follow-up? Check. King here. All right, what about this one? Queen here. King here. Queen check. King here. Queen check. Let's try that. Now, of course, this is no good because I believe I've got a couple checkmates. E5 or bishop e5, yeah. Okay, so let's go check. Okay, so check. That makes sense. Okay, so check here. Check. And I can grab the bishop. All right, king in the corner. We've got bishop e5 as mate. King up. Bishop f4 is mate. All right, yeah, so that's just a known line that's good for white. King's Gambit. G4 is fine. Nothing wrong with G4. Neither is Queen H4. It's a natural move. So this is all fine up until here. Now, it's so tempting, and this is why it's a fun line to play as white, because a lot of black players, and I would be one of them, definitely in the speed game, maybe not in a longer game, I'd be a little hesitant, but definitely in a blitz game, I'd be playing G2 if I didn't know this line. So the best move here is simply to take. And then I believe either D6 or what's even no, D6, D5, maybe I just take here. Yeah, maybe it's D6, D6. And what's the score here? 6 pawns. So, I mean, if black wants to be up a pawn, they can. 6 pawns. White has a lead in development. And I think if we were to turn on the engine, this would be like close to equals. And yeah, that's what it's giving, about equals. So that's really the best way for black to play. But like I said, oh, thank you, chessriddler. Well, I'm gonna go grab another coffee, and then I think I'll seek out another opponent just to get some variety. But definitely, I'll be here next Saturday if you'd like to play again. always willing to play. Yep, so this is a trap line now. Knight e7 was interesting. Riley won chess. Thank you for the follow. Most people play knight h6. And after bishop here, it gets a little dicey for black. But knight e7 was interesting. But I don't think... yeah, d5... d5 was makes sense. You want to get your bishop out, but I think in this position you have to go for queen g1. I mean, it's bad here anyway, but and then I think I was going to play takes. Well, right now I'm just playing whoever's in the lead chess pool. So let's create another game. But before I do that, I'm just going to make a quick bathroom break. Maybe we'll go 15-10, make it rapid. Okay. All right. We'll be right back, folks, and then we'll play a third game. Thank you again for Chess Riddle. Hope to play you again maybe next week. So stay tuned, folks. Okay, Riley Chess. I'm going to just play whoever's in the lead chess pool. So let's throw Seek out, and let's see who is... we've got a 10-10. Let's play this individual, a 10-10. Norris, no fun, or Norris K, no fun. Let's see. So last time I played the Scandinavian, let's change it up. Let's go for the good old Sicilian. And we'll see if we get a dragon. I've been adopting the dragon recently. And this is the start of the dragon. Now, I've heard two things about why this is called the dragon. Some people say that this pawn structure looks like the tail of a dragon. But I think most accurately, I guess there's a constellation in the cosmos that looks like this. And I believe it's either called dragon or the Latin name is dragon, something like that. Okay. So, knight c6. Yeah, let's go knight c6. All right, so I'm going to play this variation, which has been dubbed the Hungarian dragon, popularized by the Hungarian grandmaster Richard Rapport. So h5 is useful, kind of deters g4. Also, it allows me to play bishop h6 in certain moments. And we are going to try to play bishop h6, depending on how white takes back on d4. Okay, so this is how I would say the main line goes in the Hungarian dragon. Yeah, and then bishop e6. So bishop e6 to take, to take away the c4 square from the bishop. Bishop to b5 makes a lot of sense, but we'll just play king to f8, and at some point we'll tuck the king onto g7. So I like this line for black because I don't think it's the most threatening line for white. Don't have to worry so much about being massacred on the king side like you normally do in the Yugoslav attack. Attack, not a talk. Attack. All right. Now I got to remember how this goes. So castle's queenside. And it looks like e5 is in the offing. Of course, I wouldn't be able to take because I'd lose my queen. So the big Q is, what do I do with the queen? Got queen c7, queen a5. I mean, I suppose queen b6 is a possibility, but I mean, with the idea of opening the a file, but I think after a move like a3, that pretty much stops anything on the a file. Normally I play queen to a5 here. But I am curious about queen c7. There are some advantages to playing queen c7. It does keep an eye on e5. And yes, it is susceptible to knight d5, but after takes here, bishop f5. I do threaten mate. But maybe that's just going to lead to a mass of exchanges after bishop to d3. It's not really what I want. So I think we'll go queen a5. Queen a5 is the most natural. a3. Okay, well, it's a bit of a weakness, I think. We can get a pawn onto b4. Now, with the pawn on a3, that opens up some possibilities. So what if I were to just go a6? And then b5. Let's give that a whirl. It's not always obvious where to put the rook, whether to c8 or to b8. That's why I like this idea of a6 first. See what our opponent does. Okay, so now could play b5 right away. There's a downside with b5 right away. It opens things up for e5 because after I take, queen takes, then my pawn is pinned. I wouldn't be able to play b4 because I'd lose my queen. So I could play rook c8 here. Or I could even just go king g7 and bring that rook over, which is tempting. Yes, indeed. I got to make a decision here. So let's go king g7 to connect the rooks. I'm not really sure where I should put my rooks, but it's usually a good idea to connect your rooks. The rooks do well to protect each other. And also, they're good for attacking. Okay, f4. Am I worried about that so much? I don't think so. I think I could just play rook c8 here. e5 takes. Could even just go knight here, maybe. Okay. don't think f5 is to be too concerning. I think I could even just take, because I could always play bishop g6 there. Ah, no, I can't. Take, check. If I go bishop g6, it's the same problem. Queen. The queen is loose. Okay, so after f5, I think I'll have to play bishop to c4. Unless I was looking at a sac. Sacrifice looks interesting, actually. Takes. Okay, anyway. Okay, let's take. Now I've got a couple of options. I could go here. Actually, knight d5 even looks, or knight d7, pardon me, is a possibility. Just simply going after this pawn. Or I could play knight to d5, which is what I was originally thinking of. Well, the more I look at it, knight d7 is interesting. Simply going after that pawn. Let's give it a whirl. Okay, so they just want to attack b7 pawn. I don't think I would mind if they take that. If I go rook here, am I opening myself up to knight d5? Yeah, I probably am. Rook c5 perhaps. Okay. Let's go rook c5. He wants to take here. Play rook b8. Then try to make use of the open b file. Now, b4 does look like it wins material, but I've got queen takes a3 check. Okay. All right, now what? Take with the knight. Queen d4, panning the knight. Maybe I just go f6. Let's see. Knockout. Let's go for this. Actually, instead of f6, what if I go rook c4? Because the queen does protect that. Then maybe I just double up, threatening to sack on c3. If the knight moves, then I crash in here. This is kind of a tricky move. Bishop there. So what if I go here? Let's get tactical. Tactical. That was an interesting move because it cut the defense of that knight on e5. So queen here. Take there. This is good. This is looking okay. And this is the problem with a move like a3 is that if I ever take and they take back, well then they're susceptible to queen takes a3 check. Really? Okay. I thought they were going to go king to d2. They want to go there. Okay. Why can't I go here with the idea of simply here or here? Actually, I could probably just take there. Well, not really seeing much better. I'm sure there's a mate. There was a mate here, but okay. Well, I guess we'll simplify. All right. Well, it is the dragon. So, with the dragon being so highly tactical, let's turn on Ye Old Engine. Ah, it looks like I made a mistake. Okay. So here, it's -2. Black is for choice. Okay. I just want to see what... Okay, so queen a5 or queen c7 were both possible. Even a6 right away. Okay. Okay, king. This is fine. Everything's fine. Okay, that was a mistake. Yeah, that didn't feel right. Rook d4, which I've seen a lot of when analyzing this. It's not really natural looking. It's kind of a funny spot for the rook, but I think the main idea is to get your other rook involved. So then rook c5, and then same idea, I think, double up. Okay. So takes, and it looks like knight d7 is the computer's recommendation, although knight g4 is not too far. Okay, so here I played rook c5. This is all fine. Okay. Looks like knight b6 was slightly more accurate. Knight b6. Okay. I suppose in the benefit of hindsight, the knight is nice here. It's looking at 3 really nice squares. But rook b8 is fine as well. Ah, you could have played bishop takes a6. Aha, that's a tricky move. Okay, we both missed that. So the idea is that if I were to take, well, he takes this. Because now my rook is no longer defended. And so I guess, what's the case after here? Why is this better? Oh, because of this check, I think. So they get the material back. Tactics of the Sicilian right there. So had he played, or had they played queen there, we got queen b6. A nasty check there, b4. Then we take. Yeah, then I'm crashing through. So even this is good for black. Okay, but it looks like I did blunder later on. So apparently that was a bad move. And my opponent did not find the best move. They could have tried bishop d5 like they did later on in the game, but even rook d5. Huh. So I think the idea is if I take, we've got check. I don't think I should play f6 because then there's queen here. So, the rook in the... Okay, yeah, this rook is not defended. Aha. Very tricky. Okay, so instead of knight takes, yeah, maybe just double up like I was doing in the game. Then rook d4. Now it wants to play knight b6. Okay, that makes sense. Because the problem is this knight can't move because then I take on c2. Yeah, and b6 is a nice square for the knight. Okay. All right. I think we got time for one more here. Let's see. Let's see if we can... what are people looking for? I like 1510. That's a nice time control. So let's see if I can find another person with that time control. we've got a 25-0 though. 25-0 or 15-20. All right, let's try this 25-0. Okay, or not. Rather annoying when people do that. Why are you seeking if you don't want to play? Okay, well, I'm going to go quickly and fill up my coffee. Be right back. Okay, so we found somebody. 2200, and we got a Sicilian. Let's go open Sicilian. Get some practice in with the open Sicilian. Let's play Bobby Fischer's favorite line against this, the Fischer-Sozin, which is no longer that popular at Grandmaster play. So we sneak the bishop here on this diagonal. Now we move the bishop twice in the opening because d5 would have hit the bishop with tempo, also b5. So we don't want to allow that. Okay, so now the big Q. Do we castle kingside, or do we leave our options open and possibly castle queenside? I know queen f3 is a move, which kind of deters b5, or at least gives the illusion of deterring it. It's a little quirky, but what happens after like knight d7 though? Always susceptible to knight e5 hitting the queen. It might be okay though. Go here. Maybe try to tempt. Oh, actually, yeah. Let's go queen f3. I know I've played this before. but I think sometimes the queen even goes to h3. You've got some pressure there. f4 is coming to kick away that knight. So, okay, so there's a nice flexible move. Black is also keeping their options open. I could get wild and try kind of a Keres-esque attack, simply with the idea of g5. I may not want to develop my bishop right away. I don't know if I've seen g4 in this position, though. I was wondering if it's a little premature. Looks fun, though. Let's go for fun. The thing about a move like that is it does put immediate pressure on your opponent. Okay, so yeah, unfortunately, now I think I have to take that knight. Because if I just protect this guy, I've got knight e5, queen here, and I think they could just simply take here. And yeah, I could play h3, knight back, and try to take here, but I think that's in black's favor. So I think we do have to take that. I do have some like positional sacrifice ideas. If they take here, wondering if e5 is a good move. I mean, I could simply go here, but after here, then the knight is eyeing the e5 square. Does bishop f4 deter the knight from going to e5? I don't think that's a weakness. I'm really intrigued by this pawn sack idea. But the problem with that is after I go g5, it allows knight d5. Okay, so that's just a dumb idea. Okay, well, you play g4 with the idea of playing g5. Play queen g3. Put a little uncomfortable pin there. Okay, now let's move the queen. I don't like the idea of giving them that tempo move. So now I could maybe pressure d6, try to get them to play e5, because if they play e5, then my bishop is improved. Although I suppose after here they could just go knight e5, because I don't think that helps me by taking that. Might be beneficial to goad him to put the knight there, though. So we'll give it a try. Castle queenside. Okay, good. So we achieved what we were trying to do. Let's bring the bishop back. Now we just got to be concerned about possible forks here. Got to make sure that's not going to be possible. Knight here, I think I take it. Knight here might be a possibility, though. Mm-hmm. So if I castle, just looking at the consequences of a5. on a5 I can play knight a4. Take that knight off the board. I mean, I could even just go a4 myself or a3. I think I've got some options there. Looking at some sacrifices on f7 to see if we could somehow make that work. What's the follow-up? Yeah, I don't think I have one. Actually, okay, well that's really not a threat because I could take that. Queen takes, and then I could take here. It also gives me a massive square there. So now I'm wondering if I could get away with g6. The idea being takes, takes, rook here. So I don't see how able to protect the g-pawn, but I don't think they have to, because I could just play bishop to f6. I take, king in the corner, or even bishop f8 and king in the corner. I don't think that's working. But if I go rook here, maybe that is a threat. Okay, well, let's just go here because it is useful to just get off that diagonal. I mean, of course, the simple f4 makes sense. And I don't like c5. I think that's too weakening. I thought they should have allowed or left the pawn on c6 and ran with the a pawn, because you could even go bishop a6 if you're concerned about your bishop. Okay, so they're going to do both. But the problem with that is that gives me this square. So I must be able to punish that somehow. A4. F4. Okay, knight here, here. Bishop to D5. Takes. Yeah, it's not doing anything, is it? Opponent requests to take back. No, my friend, you're playing a slow game. Problem is, if I go G6, they always have the option to take this way. So I almost have to force it, but do I have enough compensation there? That's the big question. I might. If they just go here, and then I take here, I go bishop F7, and that bishop there, or bishop F6 rather, it's going to be hard to dislodge that bishop. Oh, I suppose I could even just take there too. Well, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but it looks tempting. I might, excuse me, I might have long-term compensation here, at the very least. Okay. I get 2 pawns for it. And they no longer have the ability to castle. Okay. But now I'm coming in here, right? Yeah, they couldn't have taken here before because of queen g6. I pick off the rook. Well, I'm short of time, so I'm not going to calculate any more sacrifices. Hey, nerdy Asian guy, how's it going? Okay, let's go here, threaten a mate. I think they got to go queen d7. I was wondering if I could play this. Yeah, so when you're attacking, you can't be you can't play slowly. You gotta bring all the forces in. Otherwise, your opponent will have a chance to defend. Hello, Sachin. How are you? Okay, so now we're going to use the pin here, and this will end my opponent's misery. They can't take because of check. Well, this is pretty. Let's do it that way. All right. So the big question is, was my sacrifice sound? And the verdict is, okay, well, it's 0.5, so what was the score before that? Plus 2.3. Hi, Cheese, welcome. Thank you for the follow. Okay. So maybe bishop takes f7. Yeah, it looks like that wasn't the best move, although white still has a small edge after that. Interesting. It wanted to play g6. I looked at g6. Can I 1v1 you? I have no idea what 1v1 means. You'll just have to explain to me what 1v1 means. Okay, so just wants to continue this way. Okay. Ah, I failed to consider that. Now I have access to the e6 square because the pawn is no longer on f7. Okay. All right. Well, not totally sound, but did put tremendous pressure on my opponent. And my opponent played the losing move. I was concerned during the game of king to f8, but the best move apparently is king to g8. Yeah, geez, I never even considered that. Because the idea is that after takes, well, now they can take with the rook, because the king is holding on to the rook. So best move here is actually bishop here. Bishop to f8. Knight b5, hit the queen. Queen d7. Knight takes d6. Queen e6. It says this is equals, so I'm quite happy with that. Anytime you sacrifice, and if you're not entirely sure of it, um, it's not the worst thing to find out that at best play, it's equals. And the point is, when you're playing another amateur, your amateur is going to make mistakes like you do. Okay, so yeah, that move was also not good. Which is interesting, because during the game I was going to play this move. Knight here. Queen g6 to hit the rook. So it looks like this is going to be similar to the other line. This is crazy. Tactics ahoy! So what's the best move here? The knight is actually well placed because it's holding on to the rook. If it wasn't, then I would be able to play queen takes. And after queen takes rook, I would have that one. And the other thing is holding on to the queen, because otherwise I'd have queen takes rook followed by rook takes knight. So I was thinking queen f6, but the engine actually wants to take on d7. So at this point I'm down a piece. The point is I can play, maybe the idea is rook d6. Okay, rook b7 is slightly better according to the engine. I guess the idea is that this rook is attacking that guy. And so bishop takes c2, king takes c2, just to get a pawn back. Knight d5. Okay, and this is +1 for white. Well, still some work to do, but okay, well, that makes me feel better. My sacrifice wasn't unsound. Wasn't great, but wasn't the best move. Anyway, let's. I want to just check the opening really quick, and then we'll call it a day. So I played Queen F3, which I've played before, and yeah, I did actually play a move that is one of the engine's considerations. So I went for G4. So takes, and then what did I do here? I played G5 right away, okay. Followed by Queen G3. Okay, so bishop to B7 apparently is slightly inaccurate because now white has a 0.7 advantage. I mean, okay. I mean, it doesn't look like a bad move. Engine actually is considering castling kingside, which doesn't seem logical because you're walking into possible pawn storms. But it also gives a couple of other moves. Yeah, this one here makes sense, C5. I think that's what I would do. Keep your options open as black. Don't castle kingside yet. And C5 makes a lot of sense because then you could go bishop to B7 and then you got a nice diagonal. So anyway, that's not what was played. Bishop B7 was played. Bishop to F4, just putting pressure on here. And seeing if my opponent, if I could goad them into playing E5, which I did. And at this point, white is plus 1.3. Okay, now it's 0.9. Anyway, during the game, I was feeling good here. I didn't realize the engine thought this highly, but I definitely felt that I had the better position. So knight to B6, and then castles. And at this point, it's plus 2. Wow, that's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, it doesn't look like black is doing, optically, it doesn't look like black is doing that poorly. But in the game, they played C5, which I criticize because it really gives up that D5 square. I thought the best move was A5, but I guess the engine is not too crazy about that either. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do during the game. H4 is a possibility, but F4 I think is what I was leaning towards. Now, if they do play A4, this might be a worthwhile pawn sack, because now I take the knight. Now I win this pawn. Yeah, maybe this isn't so good for black then. The bishop here is a very important defensive piece, because black's not going to have any pressure on the A2 pawn. And in fact, the engine gives this sacrifice as the best attempt. Okay. All right. During the game, A5 was not played, but rather C5. And, okay, F4 is the number one choice, but this was also a worthy choice, as suggested by the engine. And yeah, this is the position that we're just looking at. This is when I got a little too excited and didn't play the best move. I mean, sacrifice doesn't lose. But yeah, g6 makes sense. I failed to consider that after f takes, I would have access to that square. So that would have been a worthy pawn sack, especially after f4. Yeah, king in the middle, you want to open up the lines. So it doesn't matter that I'm down a pawn here. I mean, really, who cares? Got tremendous pressure on d6. Nice squares for the knight. Looks pretty crunchy. Okay. Well, listen, folks, thank you for tuning in. This is my first stream of 2024, believe it or not. If you haven't done so already, do join our channel here, join our Discord, and check out our YouTube site. I typically will post the entire stream on the YouTube site, and sometimes I'll break down into the individual games. Nerdy Asian guy says, yeah, I've been waiting for this stream since January. Yes, I took a long break, but now I'm back, so I'm planning on streaming every Saturday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And like I said, if you can't view it live, you can always either check it out on our Twitch stream or Twitch channel or our YouTube channel. So use !YouTube or !Discord in the chat, and you'll be able to see our links to those two resources. So that's it for me, folks. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next time. Bye now.